You're on the road beyond. Welcome to our audience on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for being here this evening. Good to see you with us. I'm Todd Duplantis. I've got a couple of folks joining me right now. Of course, Ike McFadden over in Athens, Greece joins us live. Ike, you're back this week. Well, you forgot to turn your mic on, so
I'm back in Athens. I was going to say I'm not back in the U.S.
Yeah, you're back in Athens again this week, and of course, producer Pete is online with us this evening as well. Pete, how are you doing tonight?
You are correct, sir.
Yes. Hey-o. If you missed last week's show, we made references to Pete being our version of Ed McMahon, so that's kind of where that went. And Pete is fulfilling the role as we see tonight. Isn't that right, Pete?
Yes, it is. And I hope the check clears like it didn't do it last week.
Well, to be fair, I mean, to compare him to Ed McMahon, I think Pete ought to do a good job.
Yeah, I should be able to.
Ed
but
McMahon
I don't know if I'm going to.
Job.
I'm still up in the air.
Did you ever see that YouTube clip where Ed McMahon's drunk?
Which one?
Yeah, the most famous one, I think he was talking about going to the zoo and stuff. But anyway, apparently it was true. He went and had a few cocktails for lunch and then decided to show up on the set. And he said it was out of character for him. But anyway.
Who wouldn't want to get drunk and look at the monkeys?
Who wouldn't? Why not? Hey.
Yeah, why not?
Zoo.
You mean Davy, Michael, Peter, Mickey? Those monkeys?
There's only two monkeys left now, by the way.
I know. It's very sad.
Yeah, and they're touring, believe it or not.
Yeah. I think it's the Mickey and Mike show or something, what they're calling it now. Yeah,
Mike Nesmith, incredible guy, and fascinating musician, and great story as well. Hey, we had something happen about a month or so ago. Pete was sick one week. Ike was getting ready to leave from the States because he had to flee to Greece. Don't ask why. But he left the country. And before he did, we had a show where we talked about hurricanes. You remember that, Ike? We went over hurricanes, weird weather, and it was a pretty good show.
Yeah, we've actually talked about hurricanes several times, but yeah, that was the best. That was
the best one yet. But anyway, so as always, Ike creates a lot of our art for the show. And we were posting the video for the show, and Ike found a picture of the eye of a hurricane. And it was just, he zeroed in on the hurricane and posted the show title. And we set it out there. And as I do every week, I boosted it through a certain social media platform and paid for an advertisement to get viewers to watch the show and to promote the show. Well, halfway through the week of its posting, I get an email from this certain social media platform that we were posting adult content in possible pictures that would be against community standards. So I don't know what happened with that. Any theories on your end, Ike, what happened there? I mean, I thought it was the eye of a hurricane, but somebody thought it was explicit.
I have to say I was a little surprised at that because there was certainly no adult content in there. What I did, I had a lot of, anti-vaccine messages in the cloud.
Yeah,
in terms of adult, no, it was very, very fine.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we decided we'd pull the picture, and I created a new picture, which wouldn't offend anyone. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that picture?
I was trying to think of what would be inoffensive. And what I forget what it was. It like a photo of a little baby duck or something?
It was a puppy in a field. In the title, he renamed the show from Hurricanes and Abnormal Weather to Puppies, Rainbows, and Safe Spaces. That picture was then posted in social media. So if you go searching for episode, I think number 39, which we talk about hurricanes, it's really the hurricanes, but you're going to see the title of the show changed with a picture of a puppy called Puppies, Rainbows, and Safe Spaces. So we hope that doesn't offend anyone from the social media platform. But we're not going to get into any more of that. We're going to talk a bit about hurricanes later in the show, especially a specter from hurricanes. But first, Ike, we've got a guest coming up.
That's right. A ghostly encounter 33 years ago in an Arizona theater was the start of Bob Hunnicutt's journey into the world of ghosts and hauntings. A theater ghost challenged his ideas about the existence of life after death and helped him realize that maybe science could not explain everything. So since then, Bob has investigated cases associated with hauntings, the supernatural, all kinds of scary stuff like that, especially around my home state of Georgia and the Southeast and portions of the Midwest.
That's right. Bob's a founder and director of the Georgia Ghost Society and the Central Georgia representative for the American Ghost Society. He's investigated some of the South's most haunted and historic locations. We're going to hear about the Reed House Hotel in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was there a few months ago. Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Louisville, Kentucky. Brenau University's Pierce Auditorium in Gainesville. And Pirates House Restaurant, along with Moon River Bakery, or Brewery, I should say, in Savannah, Georgia, just to name a few. Bob's also been featured on many radio programs, including Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, Paranormal Radio with Captain Jack, many more. Please welcome Bob Hunnicutt to the show. Bob, we appreciate you joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Want to learn more about that experience that happened to you 32 years ago. Maybe you can break that down and tell us what shook you so much that got you interested in paranormal studies.
Well, now that's an old bio. It's actually 42 years ago.
Wow.
Now.
Okay. That's an old bio there, Bob.
Yeah, because I'm an old fart. So, but it was during a bicentennial event in Tucson. And I was just an extra. And during one of the dress rehearsals, we were told after the performance to take our costumes, let them to be examined. And there was a woman sitting at a big table sewing, and I forgot to tell her something, and I turned back around and the woman was gone. And this was not a very big room, maybe half the size of a basketball court. And there was only one door going in and one door going out, and I was standing in front of it. So after about 30 minutes, when some of the other employees came in and asked me what I was doing, and I told them what happened, they said, "Oh, you saw the ghost." So, I was 17. Of course, we didn't have the internet and all the books and everything that we have now. So it was interesting, and I consider myself fortunate, especially being in Arizona. I had a chance to go to Tombstone and talk to people at the Birdcage and some of the other spots.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm always fascinated when people see apparitions, which I'm assuming you thought that was an apparition that you did see at the time. Was it transparent? Did she look like she was real? Did she notice you? Did you interact with her? What did she appear like?
I thought it was an actual person. But there was no interaction. She never looked up, never made eye contact. And, she was busy. It looked like she was sewing something by hand. So I just, went about my business. But within, 3-4 seconds, I turned back around and she was gone.
Wow.
And I imagine, anybody can move quickly if they have to, but I don't think that was that quick.
So, Bob, let me ask you a couple of questions. As I mentioned earlier, I'm from Georgia. My family's been there for several hundred years. I grew up around a lot of the small towns. There's Civil War history there. There's a lot of pre-industrial history with the cotton farms and all that. So, first, is there something special about the state of Florida? And second, what is the Georgia Ghost Society?
Well, the Georgia Ghost Society, I created it back in 1999. After being a part of several other small groups. I just didn't like what I saw. So I decided I wanted to go towards something that would have a little bit more discipline, have, some straight shot ideas, more or less a scientific attitude, so to speak. We basically now deal primarily with historic locations. For years, we did just about anywhere, residences. But I'm 63 now. My health is not the best in the world, so I decided to tone it down just a little bit. I know people that get into this and go at it full speed, but if you're not physically fit and able to really handle the heavy hitters, you don't need to be in the middle of it.
Bob, let me ask you this. Many of us, including Ike, as you mentioned, have a lot of ties to the South. I'm originally from New Orleans, but my wife is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we spend the summers up there for the past decade or so. We've been on Lookout Mountain. I know there's a lot of history in that area as well. So I was every summer I wind up going to the Reed House. We go there to eat, and we also go to the Starbucks there as well. What is it with the Reed House? Tell us about your investigations there and what you've learned about it.
Well, we've only been fortunate enough to do one, and we were invited to come up on Halloween, because from what I understand, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a woman of the evening that was murdered in the room. They don't know if she was murdered really or suicide, and that was the room that we focused in on. And it was, I'll be honest with you, it was a little active and a little unnerving, but it's a beautiful hotel. I mean, if you haven't been there, you need to go, because the wood paneling, I mean, this is old school hotel elegance. And it was amazing because a lot of the people that stay there know the story of the haunting. So when they saw us running our wire and working our little gadget, everybody knew what we were doing, and they had their little questions about, well, so-and-so told me this, and well, we'll let you know.
It's an incredible, you mentioned it's an incredible hotel. And Ike, you'll appreciate this. They have these old time phone booths with actual phones inside of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, as it happens, I have stayed at the Reed House. I think it was about 2 years ago. And you're right, in the lobby, there are these old phone booths. It's all this hardwood that Bob was talking about. I'm not sure if the phone works, but it's a good place to take photos. I didn't personally see anything overly unusual, but no, it is a great hotel. And if you can get past the ghosts.
Ike, you have to put a quarter in the phone for it to work.
I didn't, but all I saw were these big things that looked like typewriters stapled to the wall. Is that what they looked like in the past?
Yeah, I remember them looking that way. Yeah, and I didn't see any slot to put a quarter in, Pete. There may have been a slot to put a credit card in, though.
Whichever. It's got to turn on somehow.
Pete, are you thinking of a peep show in Times Square?
I'm not thinking of anything right now, but thank you for bringing that up. I might think about it later.
Why don't we ever have haunted peep shows? Why hasn't that come up on the show?
Actually, I got a story for you real quick. I'm friends with Lloyd, you know that. And, he gives us cases every once in a while. He contacted me to deal with a schizophrenic. And Jeff Belanger? He called Jeff to go and deal with a haunted strip show, a strip place. So I gave Belanger a call and I asked him how much he had to pay Lloyd to be able to go and work the strip joint, because I had to deal with a psychotic.
Was it haunted at the strip joint? And where was the strip joint? Haunted.
Yeah, somebody had taken a picture of it, and it looked like that there was a swirling mass going around the pole.
So it wasn't just smoke; it was actually. Never mind. That's a fascinating story.
I have no clue, man. Well, Bob, I just hope that nobody made it rain for it.
Bob, I'm going to get us back on track here a little bit. What is this about the Waverly Hills Sanatorium? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. If you've never been there, I've been there 4 occasions. On the second occasion, I was there with a good friend of mine, Jason Lewis. And of course, there were hundreds of people there. And it's not really one of those kind of places that you can get any serious research done when you have those many people. But we kind of sat back and let the people thin out. We were on the 3rd floor, I believe. And after about 15 minutes, we noticed a woman come walking out of the door, maybe 10, 15 feet in front of us. And our eyes had just gotten acclimated to how dark it was. So you could see her outline, you could see some features. And she turned around and walked back in the room. And the first thing we noticed was that she's got no flashlight, no cameras, nothing. So we went in after her. And Jason went to the left, I went to the right, and there was nobody in the room. So unless she jumped out the window on the 3rd floor, I'm fairly sure we saw something, unusual. And of course, neither one of us had the state of mind to get a photograph.
Hey, Bob, this is Pete again.
In case you were wondering, as opposed to
in case you were wondering, when you were there, did you happen to see anything, or the nurse? There's people that've seen a nurse on. I forget what level it is over there.
The fifth floor. Yeah, I know.
Fifth floor, that's it.
No, I didn't. But I think people fail to realize that when you have that many people in and out of it, I think sometimes they have to either go get their batteries recharged or they just get tired of performing. I don't think that they're going to have like a regular, showtime or anything like that. I've heard lots of people having interactions with her and having experiences, but myself, I have not.
Bob, I want to ask you about going down to Gainesville, Breno University's Pierce Auditorium. What was intriguing about that?
Well, Breno University, it's a beautiful college. It's an old college, and Pierce Auditorium doesn't do it justice. It's beautiful. It's huge. You've got the main auditorium, and then you've got the balcony. And it's professional. I mean, they've got it dressed to the nines. But when you're sitting in that theater, in the auditorium, and there's only 3 or 4 of you there, you hear people talking and walking around upstairs and on the balcony. So after a while, you go up to the balcony, things quieten down, and next thing you know, they're down in the main auditorium. And the stage is the same way. It was one of those places that while we never really had any visual phenomena, we had a lot of auditory stuff that just could not be explained. And it was one of those nights where you had fun all night long. It was like playing hide and seek.
So let's move back to the state of Georgia and talk about the city of Savannah. For those of you who don't know about Savannah, it's an old port city. I think it's one of the oldest in the U.S., old colonial city. And there are a lot of good ghost tours there. I don't know too much about the ghosts themselves, but it's a great place to go check out. So, Bob, what is it about the Moon River Brewery in Savannah, Georgia? What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's where the resident ghost is supposed to be a gentleman. I believe his name is Stark. And he had an argument with one of the local doctors, and the doctor shot and killed him. And on one of our investigations, we actually heard it sounded like somebody was playing pool. You break the pool balls and they scattered everywhere. Of course, you go in there and there's nobody there and the balls aren't moving. It's one of those kind of places that's old up on the upstairs. They've got 2 or 3 levels that the last time we were there, they were renovating. They wouldn't just let anybody upstairs because the stairwells were so dangerous. But it's old and it's got a big history. It's right there on River Street, where the big cobblestones are. It's a beautiful building. It is. It's intriguing.
Let me ask you this, Bob, because we've talked about this on the show with other guests who have investigated paranormal activity and ghosts. Are there any theories that you are aware of that would talk about ghosts being prevalent in port cities or cities like Savannah, New Orleans, ones that are near bodies of water? And really, if you think about it, Chattanooga, it's on the banks of the Tennessee River, specifically the Reed House, less than a mile from the river itself. Do you think there's anything about being near bodies of water that enhances ghost activity?
Well, there's a lot of theories about water, underground water, certain types of crystals and minerals. It's a lot of folk stories, a lot of, investigation or stuff that really hasn't been substantiated yet. I think a lot of it is anecdotal at best, because if you ask one group, they'll cite statistics and ideas, and another group will come in and go the complete opposite direction.
Right.
Basically, what we look at, like Pete, Lloyd Arbach has been a big inspiration to me, and a lot of my continued education has been through him. So a lot of what we look at now is, instead of it being what you actually see or hear, it's not physical. It's more of a psi ESP type thing. They're more or less projecting their image to you, because otherwise how could they be wearing the same clothes that they died in?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask Todd and Pete specifically a question. We've discussed this about ghosts being around bodies of water and so forth. Is there any data? Is it possible? I'm going to ask, is it possible? Are the ghosts thirsty?
I wouldn't think so. No.
I don't think ghosts need to drink there, Ike.
No, I mean, there's no physicality to them. Basically, what they're doing is you're getting a telepathic message from them so that you can see them, interpret them the way they want to be seen.
We've been talking with Bob Hunnicutt. He's with the Georgia Ghost Society, paranormal investigator. Bob, where can people find you on the web?
That's simple, GeorgiaGhostSociety.net.
All right, Bob, we appreciate you joining us tonight and telling us some interesting stories that you've been investigating. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with you again.
I hope so.
All right, Bob, we appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Pete, Lloyd Auerbach's name keeps coming up. I know he's been a guest on the show in the past. Maybe we should look at getting him on in the future again, too.
I have no problem with that. What topic would you like?
Well, we'll figure it out as we go along. I just think we need to cover up. Maybe we talk with him about Ike's theory about ghosts being thirsty.
Yeah. Okay. So what are we going to do the other 25 minutes of the day?
Yeah. Well, we'll figure that out. There you go, folks.
You are correct, sir.
You are correct. Yes. Hey, so Ike, you seemed. What's your theory on the ghosts being prevalent or maybe amplified by bodies of water? Because we hear a lot of stories about ghost activity in port cities or near bodies of water. I mean, what is your theory? You're the skeptic on the show. What do you think of it?
Well, as the skeptic, my natural position would be, it probably doesn't mean anything. But if I wanted to theorize about it, human civilization grew up around ports and rivers. It's far cheaper and easier to transport goods on bodies of water. So you probably have a much longer history around rivers and ports and oceans and so forth. So, that makes some amount of sense that there would simply be a much longer human settlement around any kind of river or port.
So you think it's more the history than...
I think it's because they're thirsty.
They're thirsty, yeah.
I was thinking, which is probably scary in itself.
Oh, here we go.
With all of the shipwrecks that we've had, especially like the Titanic and things like that, and you're talking about hauntings on bodies of water. I've never really heard a story of like the Titanic being seen going down again. Now I've heard stuff, like ghost ships, with the Mary Celeste and so
Flying
forth.
Dutchman.
The Flying Dutchman.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know really where to even go with it, other than if the Flying Dutchman is being shown to us, so we see it for some reason, as Bob just mentioned. But yeah, I mean, I would love to know if you go out to the area where the Titanic is on the day and maybe see it sink again. I
think there's a reason for this, and that's because a lot of these older ships, like the Mary Celeste and so forth, this is going back quite a ways in history, whereas the Titanic, that was relatively recently. They had running water and bottled water, we can only assume, and so those ghosts would not be thirsty.
Well, you would think, though, if they died having drowned, then they're no longer thirsty.
They got all the water they can drink now.
Got all the water they needed.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay, folks, here's a look at some of the weird, tantalizing, and just plain bizarre stories posted from our partners at the Full Spectrum Project on Facebook. Ike, do you have a story for us tonight?
I actually do, for once.
Wow.
And I'll try to keep it brief. This comes to us from CNET. That was a web portal of some sort that's still active. Anyway, UFO sightings spiked dramatically during the coronavirus pandemic. In an interesting report allegedly from the New York Times, sightings in New York State itself, more than doubled in 2020. Now, this is the New York Times. They kind of just make stuff up, so you don't really know. But CNET reported this also, so it makes me wonder.
Well, we actually talked about this a few months ago. It was one of the news stories. There's been an increase in UFO activity and an increase in paranormal activity across the board with people reporting sightings. My theory is people had a lot of spare time on their hands, more time to hang around their house. I think we talk about this, Pete, that maybe people were.
I'm still catching up on some of those emails.
Yeah, we did. And I've seen also now that there's another rash of sightings over at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. So I don't know.
Todd, if you're going to throw me under the bus each time, I'm not going to even do this again. I'm not going to bring us.
Well, I know you don't read our emails, but this goes to prove it because we covered that story. But anyway, it's good to bring it back up in the news again because it's important. Hey, and you know what else there's been a rash of over the last 18 months? Guys in LA on jetpacks. What the hell's going on there? Anybody want to take a shot at that one?
Pete?
I thought that at one point somebody had got a hold of one of the people that were riding in one of the jetpacks, and it was actually human. I
thought you were going to say it was a drone, a UAP. Oh, there we go.
To be fair, didn't we cover this story a while back?
Yeah, we did. But
actually, we did too. This is called the redoing the show. We're recycling news stories that Ike just hasn't read yet.
This is the remix.
Yeah. So here's a fresh story for you, a brand new story. This story comes to us from Myrtle Beach Online. The title alone spells out the story. Who was the hurricane predicting ghost of Pawleys Island? Well, Ike, it appears a gray specter has been warning and protecting people on South Carolina's Pawleys Island for a couple of centuries. The gray man first made an appearance in 1822, and the last sighting was reportedly in 1989 before Hurricane Hugo hit. It said that the ghost warns people of impending disasters, and in 1954, a woman claimed to have seen the ghost and credits the ghost with helping her save her house. It was spared in the storm. In fact, she says her beach towels were still hanging on a balcony after the storm blew through. One theory, it's not, a question of whether or not the spirit is real, but who is the ghost? One theory is that it was a lost soul who was trying to make it home to see his family in 1822, only to fall victim, wait for it, quicksand. Quicksand, you say? Yes, it's real. And apparently it can be found in South Carolina. But some say the spirit was that of a lost fiancé who perished at sea and never made it home. Well, one thing we'll never know is who was the real spirit of Pawleys Island? Obviously, it was someone who was helping people spare their houses. And there's I'm losing my voice, Ike. There's no explanation for it. Discussion?
I can't wait I'm going to just, honestly, no joke here. I told us this story back in June about the gray man. So this is for someone, if you're going to critique me, you got to be more on your game than this.
Okay, I got one for you.
This was in the Myrtle Beach Online, so and it just came out though too.
We have a nun that drowned in the 1900 storm in Galveston. That some people have claimed to see her, when during a hurricane or bad weather on the beach.
Does she save their homes?
She's warning people of the weather. She shows up.
So, we could also bring in Mothman. Could be.
Actually, you want to bring in Mothman. Houston had a Mothman sighting back in, I want to say 30s.
Yeah, it was called the Batman back then.
Yeah,
the Houston
Batman. Yeah.
Yeah,
so there you go. Things you never know. Ike, did you cover it? Actually, we did cover that story as well on this show.
So really, there's no point in anyone watching another show. We've kind of covered everything.
Yeah, we kind of recycle stories here. Hey, this is fresh new news. I've got an extra news story we're going to talk about because it's a pretty serious subject. The title alone of this next story should terrify you. Otters are mysteriously attacking people and dogs in Alaska's largest city. It comes to us from CBSnews.com, so you know it's got to be at least 20% true. People in Alaska have a lot to put up with. They've got dangerous cold, they've got bear, they've got moose. Now they're having to contend with the fact that river otters are targeting them and apparently running around the place in packs. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game says the friendly-looking rodents are turning on people and pets in some of Anchorage's most popular outdoor areas. Grab the kids, lock up your wife, because this is happening. Earlier this month, a 9-year-old boy was attacked and bitten several times near a duck pond. And just this past week, Ike, a woman was attacked while trying to rescue her dog from a pack of river otters. Because of these attacks and further dangers to humans and pets, fish and game wardens are forming an otter posse to track down these hairy swimming hooligans and bring them to justice. In this case, relocating them. North American river otters can weigh 15 to 35 pounds, 40 to 60 inches long. They pack a pretty incredible punch. They can also swim about 6 miles an hour and can run as fast as a grown man on land. Are you terrified yet, Pete?
Yes. So everybody needs to watch out for the Hell's otters, and when they see them in a pack, run the other way.
Now, you know, almost every other species at some point got very large. Do we have any records of any giant otters? And by the way, I do want to say, Todd, you're right. That was new.
It's brand new. We have not covered this because it was just released this week.
So are there any tales of giant otters, Pete? You must know that.
Well, we got Ken Gerhard that's going to be on the show. Ken's going to be here in a couple of weeks. Can we have him? We'll ask him that question, Pete. What do you think?
Sure.
I can tell you he was on a hunt a few weeks ago looking for a giant salamander. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. And I've talked to him since then, so evidently he didn't get it.
No, he posted in social media that was no go with the giant salamander.
So is there any otter news that we can talk about?
I ought to know, but no, I'm not aware of. Ike, did you have any other stories you wanted to recycle this evening?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Hey, folks, we're going to have a new look here on the Road Beyond podcast in the next few weeks. Things are going to be looking different on our look for the show and all the stuff we produce, including our social media. Ike, it's going to have a brand new look. Where can they find us in social media?
Well, normally I would say the usual places like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, but they shouldn't find us till we get our act together with, all the new stuff. So just don't.
So in other words, wait for Ike to give you the go ahead and follow us. But really, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll still continue producing free content like this, where we simply recycle stories we've done weeks ago, thanks to Ike. Pete gets us new stuff on a weekly basis. Ike, not so much. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up this evening's show. Pete, great job with the vocabulary this week.
I've been working on it so hard. I apologize for letting you guys down, but,
Hey-o. Yeah.
Hey-o.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Pete. Ike, try not to get bamboozled over there in Athens while you're there. I hear they take advantage of Americans.
I mean, on a serious note, it's a very safe capital. It's probably one of the safest capitals in Europe that I'm aware of. So it's a very nice place. But I'll keep my eyes open.
Yeah. Can you also connect maybe with some ghost stories while you're there? Maybe shoot a little video for us?
Believe it or not, I did shoot some video when I was walking around some of the ruins earlier in the week, and I just didn't get around to sending it to Nathan, but I will. So maybe we'll see that on an upcoming episode. All right. For Ike in Athens, Pete here in Houston, I'm Todd, and we will see you next time on the Road Beyond podcast. Have a great week. That ought to do it.